The grocery store was crowded that evening, the kind of busy that makes people impatient and quick to judge. Near the checkout line, a young woman stood nervously, clutching her crying baby against her chest. Her clothes were worn, her hair slightly messy from the day's struggles, and in her cart were only the essentials: formula, diapers, a loaf of bread, and milk. As the cashier rang everything up, the total flashed on the screen. The woman reached into her small purse, her hands trembling, and began counting a handful of crumpled bills and coins. But she was short. I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Could you please remove the bread?" The cashier sighed impatiently, already annoyed. People in line began to groan. Someone muttered, "If you can't afford it, don't have kids." The young mother's cheeks flushed red, and tears welled in her eyes. She rocked her baby, who whimpered softly, as if sensing her mother's distress. The cashier removed the bread, but even then, she was still short. "Ma'am, you don't have enough. Do you want me to cancel the milk too?" The humiliation hit her harder than hunger ever could. She opened her mouth to say something, maybe to beg, maybe to apologize, but before she could, a calm, deep voice spoke from behind. "Leave everything. I'll take care of it." The line fell silent. Everyone turned. Behind her stood a tall man in a perfectly tailored suit, his presence commanding but his eyes gentle. He handed his black card to the cashier without hesitation. The cashier blinked. "Sir, it's..." "Doesn't matter," the man interrupted softly. "Run it." The mother turned, stunned. "No, please. I can't let you." He shook his head. "You're not letting me. I'm choosing to." The baby, as if on cue, stopped crying and stared up at the stranger with wide eyes. The mother's lips trembled. Why would you do this for me?" The man smiled faintly. "Because once, someone did it for me." Whispers rippled through the line, recognition dawning on a few faces. The man was Daniel Carter, a well-known millionaire CEO who'd built an empire from scratch. Most only saw his polished image in magazines or on television, never imagining him standing in line at a grocery store, let alone helping a struggling young mother. The cashier bagged everything quickly. Daniel lifted the bags himself, handing them gently to the woman. She looked at him as though she wanted to say 1,000 words but couldn't find even one. Her tears finally fell, but this time they weren't from shame. Daniel bent down just a little to meet her eyes. "Don't give up. You and your child deserve better days, and they're coming." Then, with a nod, he turned and walked out, leaving behind stunned silence and hearts heavier with thought. For the rest of the evening, people who had judged her so harshly couldn't shake the image of what they had seen. A man with everything choosing compassion over pride, kindness over indifference. And the young mother, as she cradled her baby with food in her hands and hope in her heart, realized something she'd nearly forgotten, that even in the darkest moments, there are people who still believe in humanity. Because sometimes, the greatest wealth isn't found in money at all, it's found in kindness. This story is about 11 minutes in spoken narration, with an emotional hook, a moment of humiliation, a dramatic twist, a heartfelt climax, and an inspiring close. Imagine the walk home that night. The young mother clutched the grocery bags as if they were treasures, her baby pressed against her shoulder, tiny fingers curled into her worn jacket. Each step felt lighter than the last, though her life hadn't suddenly become easier. Bills still waited at home, rent was still overdue, and her future still uncertain. But there was a new warmth in her chest, a spark of belief that hadn't been there before. Someone had seen her. Someone had reminded her she wasn't invisible. She thought about the way the man had spoken, steady and kind, not with pity but with respect. The world rarely gave that to her anymore. People looked at her and only saw mistakes, poor choices, someone struggling to get by. But he had looked at her differently, as if she was capable, as if she deserved more than just survival. That night, After putting her baby to sleep, she wrote a note on the back of a receipt and taped it above her tiny kitchen counter. Don't give up. Better days are coming. Across town, Daniel Carter sat alone in his office, the city lights spilling through glass windows. He thought of the young mother, of the baby's eyes that had quieted the moment he stepped forward. He thought of his own childhood, the nights his single mother had cried quietly over bills, the days when a kind stranger at a store once paid for their groceries. That moment had stayed with him his whole life, shaping not just the man he became but the values he held close. And so, helping her wasn't charity. It was gratitude. A way of keeping alive the kindness that once saved him. The next morning, life went on as usual. People rushed, complained, judged, and hurried through their routines. But for two souls, something had shifted. For the mother, it was hope. For the millionaire, it was a reminder that success only mattered if it lifted someone else, too. Because in the end, no act of kindness is ever wasted. It ripples outward, touching hearts in ways we may never fully see.